Hi, Gary DeWaal here, and this is another edition of Bridging the Week, July 28th through August 2nd, and today is August 5th, 2013. Good morning. A few interesting matters in the U.S. out there last week as we enter the dog days of August in North America and a major holiday time in Europe. But to me, the most interesting was the publication last Friday of the CFTC's Rule Enforcement Review of the Chicago Mercantile Exchange for the period November 2010 through October 31st, 2011. In connection with this review, the CFTC mostly considered the CME's market surveillance program. In general, the CFTC made no recommendations regarding the CME's routine market surveillance. However, the Commission strongly criticized the exchange's monitoring of exchange of futures for related positions, or EFRP transactions. As background, and this is a bit difficult, so please bear with me, or just check the writing below this video on my website because it's all written out there. As background, EFRP transactions include EFPs, an exchange of futures for a corresponding cash market position, EFRs, an exchange of futures for a corresponding OTC swap or other OTC derivative, and EOOSs, an exchange of an exchange-traded options position for a corresponding OTC options position or an equivalent OTC contract. Normally, EFRPs involve two different but related simultaneous transactions. One party is typically the buyer of the off-exchange market exposure and the seller of the related exchange contract, and the other party, unrelated ordinarily from the first, is typically the seller of the off-exchange market exposure and the buyer of the related exchange contract. The quantity covered by each leg of the related contracts must be approximately equal, and there are specified documentation requirements related to such transactions. Clearing members who post EFRP transactions on behalf of their customers are responsible under CME rules to ensure that each EFRP transaction is bona fide. With that background in mind, the CFTC said that during the relevant time period, the CME conducted investigations regarding too few EFRP transactions to ensure their validity, specifically only 16 reviews in response to 484,218 transactions. As a result, the CFTC found that the CME procedures for monitoring EFRPs were insufficient and that the exchange had an inadequate program for ensuring that parties to an EFRP transaction maintain required documents to verify that a sufficient sample of EFRP are legitimate. What does this mean practically? Clearing member firms and their clients have already begun to experience enhanced scrutiny regarding EFRP transactions, and this level of scrutiny is only likely to increase. Check out a special Compliance Weeds article on EFRPs that I will post to my website tomorrow with some very practical compliance guidelines that FCMs as well as participants to EFRPs may want to follow. As part of its review of the CME, the CFTC also had some issues with the way the exchange administers its granting of hedge exemptions. The CFTC said some applicants for hedge exemption were incomplete, late, and sometimes were responded to by the CME granting hedge exemption levels in excess of the requested amounts. Wow, talk about an early Christmas. The CFTC also criticized the CME for not closing some investigative files within 12 months of the date they were open in this rule review published by the CFTC 22 months after the end of the studied period. Wait, 12 months for the CME, 22 months for the CFTC? What more can I possibly say about that? In other developments last week, the US Securities and Exchange Commission adopted new rules aimed to increase protections for customers depositing money and securities with broker-dealers, as well as enhancing broker-dealer capital requirements and their credit and market risk and liquidity documentation requirements. This development comes at the same time as the exchange-traded derivatives industry awaits final rules by the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, also aimed to increase customer protection of futures commission merchants, and the UK Financial Conduct Authority is seeking comments on proposed changes to its customer protection regime, too. Although most of the largest broker-dealers and futures commission merchants in the United States are in fact combined FCM and broker-dealers, the protection of customer funds related to securities trading and futures trading is subject to different laws, different regulatory oversight, and different treatments in case of a broker bankruptcy. Frankly, if I was a customer, not a 30-year-plus veteran of this business, I would be very confused by the potentially 5 different treatments that my cash and securities at combined broker-dealer FCMs might be subject to, depending on the type of product I traded and whether I posted cash or securities in SEG, foreign secured, or cleared swaps bucket under the CFTC regime, or in a customer reserve account, or subject to custody and control rules under the SEC regime. Holy cow, as New York Yankees shortstop and later announcer Phil Rizzuto used to proclaim. Under the SEC rule, broker-dealers that have custody of customer assets must now file an annual compliance report with the SEC, and in most cases SIPC, verifying that they are 1. Adhering to broker-dealer capital requirements, 2. Protecting customer assets in accordance with the requirements, and 3. Sending account statements to customers at least periodically. Broker-dealers are now required to prepare and file with the SEC and their relevant SROs, such as FINRA, a new quarterly report describing how they maintain custody of their customers' securities and funds, and to submit enhanced oversight by such regulators. Under the SEC's new rules, broker-dealers may no longer carry their customers' cash balances at affiliated banks, and this is unlike the case in the CFTC world, where FCMs can carry customers' cash balances at affiliated banks, and broker-dealers are also limited in the amount of such customer cash they can carry at a non-affiliated bank to 15% of such bank's equity capital. Carrying brokers who hold omnibus customer accounts for other broker-dealers are now required to maintain a new segregated account for such types of clients, and all broker-dealers must also now comply with new customer disclosure, notice, and affirmative consent requirements where their customers participate in a sweep program involving money market or bank deposit products. Certain broker-dealer capital rules have also been amended, and broker-dealers are now required to document formally their market, credit, and liquidity risk management controls. In another development last week, the US Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC, approved a stipulation and consent agreement with JP Morgan Ventures Energy Corporation related to its alleged market manipulation of electricity markets in California and in the Midwest from September 2010 through November 2012. Under the stipulation and consent, JP Morgan will pay $285 million as a fine, an additional $124 million as disgorgement of profits. According to FERC, during the relevant time, JP Morgan engaged in manipulative bidding strategies in order to force electricity system operators to pay JP Morgan higher than market rates. This matter follows a July filing by FERC against Barclays Bank related to its alleged manipulation of the California electricity market from November 2006 through December 2008. In the Barclays matter, being contested by the bank, FERC is seeking a fine of $435 million and disgorgement of $34.9 million of profits and interest. It would be totally inappropriate for me to say that the amount of these fines for electricity manipulation is absolutely shocking. I won't say it. Last week, Bloomberg CEF LLC became the first entity to qualify as a swap execution facility under the CFTC's recently adopted swap execution facility rules. Bloomberg CEF intends to offer RFQ and order book functionality for interest rate swaps, foreign exchange, and commodity derivatives trading. I wonder now if Bloomberg will refile its lawsuit against the CFTC over its CEF rules that was dismissed just a few weeks ago for lack of standing by Bloomberg. And finally, there will be a new face among the CFTC commissioners soon. J. Christopher Giancarlo, currently Executive Vice President of GFI Group, has been nominated to replace Jill Summers for one of the 2 current Republican commissioner seats. Let's see how long it takes for the Senate to confirm him. Well, that's it for this week. Until next week, this is Gary DeWaal. And this is Bridging the Week. Thank you. Have a great week.